In the silent chambers of existence, beyond the noise of daily life, lies the sacred space where the soul whispers its deepest truths. It is here, in the vast and luminous realm of inner awareness, that one begins the journey of awakening. To awaken is not merely to exist but to see, to feel, and to understand life from a depth that transcends the superficial. This path is not for all, it is for those whose souls have been stirred by an unseen force, those who feel the pull of something greater than the material world, those who cannot ignore the silent longing for meaning that resonates in the depths of their being. Awakening does not arrive as a sudden revelation, it is an unfolding, a gradual unveiling of the layers that have obscured one's true nature. The journey begins with a recognition, a moment of clarity when one realizes that the life they have known is but a fraction of what truly exists. This recognition often comes through suffering, for pain has a way of shattering illusions, of breaking the false constructs we have built around ourselves. It strips away the distractions, leaving us raw and vulnerable before the great mystery of existence. In this vulnerability, the soul speaks. It does not use words, but a knowing, a deep, undeniable knowing that there is more to who we are. This is the first step, to listen. To listen requires silence, for the voice of the soul is not loud, it does not compete with the noise of the world. It is a whisper, a gentle nudge that asks us to turn inward, to leave behind the external validations, the fleeting pleasures, and the illusions of control. As one listens, they begin to perceive the weight of conditioning, the layers of beliefs, fears, and identities imposed by society, family, and personal experiences. These layers, though they once served a purpose, now act as barriers to the truth. They distort perception, creating a false sense of self. To awaken is to dismantle these layers, to question every assumption, to strip away all that is not truly one's own. This process is not easy, it demands courage, for it is a confrontation with all that one has taken for granted. It is a breaking down of the self in order to discover the essence that lies beneath. True awakening is not found in knowledge alone. One may read, study, and contemplate, but unless truth is lived, it remains theoretical. The awakened soul does not merely understand, it embodies. This embodiment is an alchemical transformation, where wisdom ceases to be an external concept and becomes the very fabric of one's existence. It shapes how one sees, speaks, moves, and interacts with the world. Yet, in this awakening, one does not become separate from the world but more deeply connected to it. A paradox unfolds. The more one discovers their individuality, the more they realize their unity with all things. The walls of separation begin to dissolve, revealing an interconnected tapestry of existence. One sees that they are not isolated, but part of a greater whole, a consciousness that moves through all of life. This realization births compassion, for when one sees themselves in others, love becomes the natural response. Not the love of possession, but the love that flows freely, seeking nothing in return, for it recognizes itself in every being. But the path of awakening is not without trials. The journey inward brings forth shadows, the unhealed wounds, the suppressed emotions, the fears long buried. These shadows must be faced, for they are the fragments of the self that have been disowned. They manifest as resistance, doubt, and at times, an overwhelming sense of isolation. Many turn back at this stage, for the darkness within can be terrifying. But those who persevere come to understand that these shadows are not enemies, they are teachers. Each wound, each fear, is a doorway to deeper understanding. To embrace them is to integrate them, to bring them into the light of awareness, where they lose their power to control. Through this process, one begins to see with new eyes. The world no longer appears as a series of disconnected events but as a flowing, intelligent design. One recognizes the patterns, the synchronicities, the unseen forces guiding their steps. What once seemed like chaos reveals itself as order. Even suffering is seen with new wisdom, not as a curse, but as a catalyst, a necessary fire through which the soul is refined. With awakening comes a shedding of the false self, but it also brings the discovery of one's true essence. This essence is not defined by titles, achievements, or roles, it is the silent presence that has always been, untouched by the changing tides of life. To live from this essence is to move with grace, to act not from ego but from a deep knowing. It is to be guided not by fear, but by love. This journey is not about becoming something new, but about remembering who one has always been. The truth is not something to be attained, for it has never been absent. It is simply uncovered, revealed beneath the veils of illusion. The deeper one goes, the more they realize that what they seek is already within them. There is nothing to add, nothing to achieve, only a return, a homecoming to the soul's true nature. And yet, even as one awakens, the journey continues. There is no final destination, no ultimate enlightenment where all is complete. Awakening is not a place one reaches but a state of being that deepens eternally. The soul expands, exploring ever greater depths, uncovering infinite layers of truth. Each step reveals new vistas, new understandings, new levels of presence. Those who embark on this path may find themselves walking alone, for the world does not always understand those who seek beyond the visible. There will be moments of solitude, where one feels like a stranger even among those they love. But this solitude is not emptiness, it is a sacred space where the soul strengthens, where clarity is found. In time, one realizes they are never truly alone, for the universe moves with them, whispering its guidance in the wind, in the stars, in the quiet moments between thoughts. The awakened soul does not seek to escape the world, but to illuminate it. They do not retreat, but walk among others as a quiet presence, a reminder of what lies beneath the surface of existence. They do not impose their truth but live it, allowing their very being to speak louder than words. For the greatest teaching is not in what is said, but in what is embodied. To those who feel the call, know this, the path is not easy, but it is worth every step. There will be trials, there will be moments of doubt, but beyond them lies a freedom that cannot be described, a peace that is unshaken by the storms of life. This is not a journey of becoming, but of unbecoming, of shedding all that is not truly you until all that remains is the light that has always been. Listen to the call. Trust the journey. Walk the path with an open heart. For in the end, what you seek is not separate from you, it is you. The path of awakening is infinite, unfolding layer by layer, revealing ever deeper truths about the self, the universe, and the divine intelligence that weaves them together. As one continues on this journey, the illusions of separation fade, and a profound sense of unity emerges not as an intellectual concept but as a lived experience. This is not merely about spiritual insight, it is about embodiment, about living each moment in alignment with the deepest truths one has uncovered. Yet, the deeper one ventures, the more one realizes that awakening is not about acquiring something new but about surrendering, letting go of attachments, identities, and beliefs that no longer serve. This surrender is not weakness, it is the greatest act of strength, for it requires complete trust in the unseen forces guiding one's path. The ego resists, fearing dissolution, but the soul knows that in letting go, one finds true freedom. One of the greatest shifts that occurs in this process is the realization that suffering is not an enemy but a doorway. Every challenge, every hardship, every painful experience is an invitation to go deeper, to transcend old patterns, to refine the soul. The awakened individual no longer seeks to escape suffering but instead asks, what is this teaching me? What within me is being called to heal? Through this lens, nothing is meaningless, even the darkest moments become sacred, for they are part of the great unfolding. This perspective does not remove the pain of existence, but it transforms one's relationship with it. Fear, anger, sadness, these emotions are no longer suppressed or rejected, but embraced with awareness. They are seen as energies moving through, as messengers bringing deeper understanding. The awakened soul does not become numb or detached but feels everything more deeply, yet with a profound inner peace that is unshaken by external circumstances. As one continues to walk this path, the external world may not always understand. Society is built upon conditioning, upon roles and expectations that often run counter to the awakening process. To live authentically in a world that thrives on masks requires courage. There will be moments of loneliness, of feeling unseen or misunderstood. But this loneliness is not a void, it is an initiation, a purification, a space where the soul learns to stand in its truth without needing validation. Yet, in this solitude, one also finds connection beyond words, beyond appearances. There is a silent recognition when awakened souls meet, an unspoken understanding that transcends time and space. It is not about finding those who think the same, but those who see from the depths, who feel from the soul. These connections are rare but powerful, for they are not based on the fleeting but on the eternal. The journey of awakening also brings a new relationship with time. The mind, conditioned by the past and future, constantly seeks control, trying to predict, to plan, to hold on. But the awakened soul learns to dwell in the present, to trust the unfolding, to surrender to the flow of life. This does not mean passivity, it means moving in harmony with what is, rather than resisting or forcing. It is the art of allowing, of being fully present in each moment, knowing that everything is unfolding as it should. With this presence comes a heightened awareness of energy. One begins to sense the subtle currents that move through people, places, and situations. The awakened soul becomes sensitive to vibrations, recognizing when something is aligned and when it is not. This is not judgment but discernment, an intuitive knowing that guides one's path. As a result, old patterns of attachment dissolve, and one naturally gravitates toward what resonates with their true frequency. This does not mean the journey is without tests. In fact, the more one awakens, the more life presents opportunities to embody that awakening. Situations arise to challenge one's patience, to trigger old wounds, to tempt one back into fear or illusion. These moments are not setbacks but initiations, invitations to deepen one's practice, to remain anchored in truth even in the face of chaos. Through these trials, humility is cultivated. Awakening is not about superiority, it is about service. The deeper one goes, the more one realizes that this journey is not just for oneself but for the collective. Every step taken in awareness, every wound healed, every illusion released contributes to the greater whole. The awakened soul does not seek to preach or convert but simply to embody truth, knowing that true transformation is not forced but inspired. This embodiment is the highest teaching. Words can point to truth, but they cannot replace experience. The greatest impact is made not by what one says but by what one is. There is a presence, a radiance, a stillness that emanates from those who have touched the depths, and this presence is felt more than it is understood. It is the silent transmission of truth, the light that ignites the same recognition in others. At this stage, life itself becomes the teacher. Every interaction, every moment, every breath is an opportunity for awareness. The mundane is no longer mundane, everything is sacred. Washing dishes, walking through a crowded street, sitting in stillness all become expressions of presence, of consciousness moving through form. There is no longer a separation between the spiritual and the ordinary, for all of existence is seen as divine. Yet, even with this deepening awareness, the journey never ends. The soul continues to expand, to explore, to dissolve into greater and greater realities. There is no final enlightenment, no point of arrival, only an eternal unfolding. The mystery remains, vast and infinite, always calling, always inviting one to go deeper. And so, the awakened soul walks on not seeking, not grasping, but simply being. There is no longer a need to define, to explain, to prove. The presence itself is enough. The heart remains open, the mind clear, the spirit free. And in this state, life becomes not a burden but a dance, a flowing, sacred dance where each step is taken in harmony with the unseen rhythm of existence. For those who have heard the call, who feel the stirrings of something beyond the material, know this, you are not alone. The path is ancient, walked by many before you, and though it may feel like darkness at times, you are always guided. Trust in the unfolding, in the wisdom of your soul, in the unseen hands that shape your journey. There is nothing to fear. There is only awakening, only remembering, only returning to what you have always been. As the journey of awakening unfolds, the soul enters a space where words become inadequate. There is a knowing beyond thought, a presence beyond form, a truth so vast that it cannot be contained in concepts. This is not the kind of knowledge the mind grasps but the kind the heart remembers, the deep and silent recognition of what has always been. Yet, even in this profound awareness, the world continues. The body still moves, the senses still perceive, the daily rhythms of life still unfold. The difference is not in what happens, but in how it is experienced. There is no longer resistance, no longer a fight against reality. The awakened one flows with life, neither clinging to pleasure nor resisting pain, for they understand that all things arise and pass away in their own time. This is the great freedom, the release from attachment, from the constant seeking, from the illusion that happiness exists somewhere outside. The awakened one no longer looks for something to complete them, for they have seen that nothing was ever missing. The search that once consumed them has ended, not because all questions have been answered, but because the need to ask them has dissolved. And yet, the paradox remains, even though there is nothing more to seek, the journey continues. Consciousness expands infinitely, revealing greater depths, subtler truths, endless dimensions of being. There is no final enlightenment, no ultimate point where one can say, I have arrived. There is only the unfolding, the deepening, the eternal becoming. At this stage, one no longer moves from ambition but from inspiration. The actions of the awakened are not driven by desire but by the natural flow of existence. They do not seek purpose in an external sense, for their very being is purpose itself. Whatever they do arises spontaneously, effortlessly, without the weight of expectation or the need for recognition. This does not mean they withdraw from the world. On the contrary, they engage with it fully, but in a different way. They no longer seek to control life, to manipulate outcomes, to impose their will. Instead, they allow life to move through them, becoming instruments of the divine, vessels through which consciousness expresses itself freely. There is a deep simplicity in this way of being. Life becomes uncluttered, unburdened by unnecessary complexity. The awakened one needs very little, not because they reject the world, but because they are already full. They may enjoy beauty, art, music, love, but they do not cling to these things. They can experience loss without suffering, for they know that nothing real is ever truly lost. With this freedom comes a profound love, not the love that is possessive or conditional, but a love that is vast, impersonal, all-encompassing. This love does not depend on who the other is or what they do. It is not based on attachment or expectation. It simply is, flowing effortlessly from a heart that no longer sees separation. This love is not always loud. It does not always manifest in grand gestures or poetic words. Sometimes, it is as simple as presence, the quiet space of acceptance, the deep listening, the gentle understanding that expects nothing in return. This is the highest form of love, for it asks for nothing and yet gives everything. And yet, this love does not mean blindness. The awakened one sees clearly, not only the beauty of the world but also its suffering, its ignorance, its unconsciousness. They do not deny the darkness, nor do they pretend that everything is perfect. But they do not fight against it in anger. Instead, they illuminate it with their presence, knowing that light does not battle darkness, it simply reveals it. To walk this path is not always easy. There are moments when the world seems heavy, when the suffering of others weighs upon the heart. But even in these moments, the awakened one does not fall into despair, for they know that everything is unfolding as it must. They do not seek to save the world, for they understand that the world does not need saving, it only needs awakening. And this awakening cannot be forced, it can only be invited, inspired, reflected. And so, they live as a quiet light. Not trying to change others, not seeking to be a teacher or a guru, but simply being what they are. Their presence alone is enough. A single awakened being can shift the energy of an entire space, not through effort but through their very being. This is the great mystery, that in doing nothing, everything is transformed. The mind struggles with this truth, for it has been conditioned to believe in effort, in striving, in struggle. But the soul knows that the highest power is in surrender, not a passive giving up, but an active trust in the greater intelligence that moves all things. And so, the awakened one surrenders, not to fate, but to flow. They do not resist what is, nor do they chase what is not. They remain in the present, in the only place where life truly exists. In this state, they find that all things come in their own time, that what is meant for them cannot be lost, and what is not meant for them cannot be held. There is a great peace in this knowing. A peace that is not dependent on circumstances, that does not waver with the changing tides of life. It is a peace that remains even in chaos, even in uncertainty, even in the face of death. For the awakened one knows, nothing real can ever be lost. The essence of what they are is eternal, beyond birth and beyond death, beyond coming and going. And so, they walk through the world lightly. Not detached, but deeply connected. Not indifferent, but profoundly compassionate. They laugh freely, love deeply, give without hesitation. They do not seek to be special, for they know that in truth, they are no different from anyone else. The only difference is that they have remembered, while others are still dreaming. But even this is temporary. For all will awaken in their own time. There is no race, no competition, no urgency. Each soul is on its own path, moving at its own pace. The awakened one does not judge, does not force, does not rush. They simply trust. And so, the journey continues, not towards something, but into something. Deeper and deeper into presence, into truth, into the infinite unfolding of being. There is no end. There never was. There is only this moment, this breath, this boundless, eternal now.